and welcome to the Adroit Dojo podcast. I am Benicio, and this is episode 24. Today we are talking Capoeira Explained. So Capoeira is a very misunderstood martial art, and I am going to give a quick breakdown of it and explain a quick history of it, 2, how it's supposed to function as a martial art, 3, why it generally does not work as a fighting system, 4, am I even right about what I'm saying, and why has people missed what I'm saying, and then finally, how you should go about training it if you choose to. Alright, so the very quick history of it is slaves from all over Western Africa were brought to Brazil. Many of them warriors. So, obviously not being allowed to train, and obviously being from various nations, Capoeira does not have one distinct lineage from Africa. Rather, it's an amalgamation of their warrior systems there, namely sword, kicks, and some takedowns. So that's how they trained during the slave times. They would hide it, as we all know, as a dance. They really only had access to like machetes and other farming implements then. So that's why a lot of the modern style is still used without weapons. And then post-slavery, it was often practiced by the underground people / less respectable people of society. And, excuse me. And so they often would use switchblades and other knives, straight razors, things like that. And then finally, I want to say 1960s, Mestre Bembe helped create a unified style and pushed for its legality, which also included removing the weapons from the system he was teaching. So that's a big reason why it's so clearly, if you look at it, a weapon system, but doesn't train with weapons anymore. It had a lot of social stigma, and so Bembe and the others worked very hard to legalize it. Alright, so how is Capoeira supposed to function as a martial art? As I already said, it is actually a weapon martial art that would use slashing weapons such as machete, one-handed swords, switchblades, razors, and the such. You could probably also use light clubs with much of the swinging. But it also incorporates a lot of kicks, takedowns, evasions, and the such. So this is why you see that it has very few blocking, not much punching, but it has a lot of evasion, ducking, dodging, and a focus on reading the attacks of your opponent. So, a question that is brought up quite often is, what other martial arts does Capoeira pair well with? Well, the most obvious answer is traditional African sword fighting. And Sensei Seth has a video where he trained with some guys who do HAMA, which I just made up that acronym, so if you look up HAMA, I doubt you'll find anything, but it stands for Historical African Weapons Martial Arts. So Sensei Seth has a really cool video with some guys in America who practice traditional African sword and shield. They're pretty good, they're awesome, they seem really nice, so definitely check out Sensei Seth's video. Alright, moving on, what else pairs well with Capoeira is one-handed weapon HEMA, or historical European martial arts. And with several of Capoeira's takedowns, it transitions well with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Surprisingly well, actually. You would be surprised. And then finally, some of the more useful and applicable aspects of Aiki, such as weapon retention. Alright, moving on. Why it generally does not work as a fighting system. Well, most people who teach and train it never remove the dance aspects and the fluff. So that's the biggest and most obvious reason, is it's not really a martial art anymore as more of a dance and expression of culture and history. So the first and foremost, if you want to make it effective, you actually have to remove all the fluff elements that hides what it is. Another reason is the lack of moderate contact fighting. In other words, it lacks modern pressure testing. Third reason, and also one of the biggest, is it's a weapon system. So you're trying to take a weapon system and use it unarmed only versus unarmed arts that are way better at what they're specialized at. So of course a Muay Thai fighter is going to destroy Capoera. It's only natural. Because it's a weapon system, it has lots of kicks and evasion, but you're removing a lot of the weapon, or the art when you remove weapons, and it doesn't even have much hand strikes. So imagine Hema or Kenjutsu without their swords. How effective would it be? It's not. Next up is, why am I right about this, and why has everyone else missed it? Well, for one, I'm actually not the only one who has seen this. Many people have come to these conclusions. And two, we might be wrong. It is a hypothesis, and mine is based on my 6 years of training in Capoeira, mixed with my various armed and unarmed training, such as fencing and Kenjutsu and knife fighting. So who knows, maybe if you train in African martial arts and you look at Capoeira, you might be thinking, no, that's ridiculous. It's not even a martial art, maybe it's just all about keeping the culture alive. Why have many people missed it? Well, non-trainees, they never really see it without the superfluous aspects, the dancing aspects, which were specifically added to hide the martial aspects. So when you design a martial art to be hidden with fluff, of course, other martial artists are going to miss some of the potential, especially when it's for weapons and you don't show any weapons or sticks. And another reason is we very rarely see it trained with weapons. When I was in Brazil, we did a little bit of training with it with weapons, but for the most part, we kept it unarmed. And in America, the only time I ever trained it with weapons was solo training. When I've trained with other people, it was always unarmed. And linked below, I will have a video with Sensei Seth training the Hawa, and then a Capoeira guy demonstrating the Jenga using a weapon. And funny story, I actually recorded myself once doing the Jenga and other things with a machete, but I look like an idiotic fat donkey, so I just deleted it and pretended it never happened. Okay, so finally, how should you go about training it and making it functional again and a real weapon system? First, foremost, get rid of the dancing and fluff aspects used to hide the fact that it's a martial art. So when you train it in the beginning, you can go unarmed or use something like Kali sticks. When I was down in Brazil, I used some sort of stick to represent, I don't remember what kind it's called. But when you first begin, I'd say the first 6 months to a year, just keep it unarmed. And then once you are naturally moving with it and you can read your opponent's moves and things like that, then add your weapon. And even with all the fluff, traditionally how Capoeira is taught right now, it's still good for teaching timing, distancing, evasion, countering, and more. So it's still pretty solid at all those things. So when solo training, you'll want to do the more normal moves, but as I said, with a stick in your hand in the beginning. Then move on to a live machete to do your moves. But you have to be very certain with your movements. Because if you have any bad habits where you didn't train with a stick, you could find yourself cutting into your limb or your body with a machete. And after your training with a stick and maybe even live steel, further refine the art, removing any movements that you'd feel like you wouldn't use in a real fight. And finally, get protective gear for weapon fighting specifically, and put your moves to the test. You can train with other Capoera people with Kali sticks or some other form. Shinai can even work if you get some shorter versions of it. And you can always spar with other weapon systems such as Kendo, Kenjutsu, Eskrima, or Hema. And that would be the best way to really pressure test your system is against other weapon forms. You don't really want to do it too much against, let's say, Muay Thai, because with a weapon, you definitely have the advantage. That said, it can't hurt. You always want to cross-train against as many styles as possible to figure out what really works for your system no matter what, and what may only be situational and what might not work at all. So there you have it. Capoeira is about using a slashing weapon system that combines well with learning other weapon systems. And if you're going to train it normally at first, and then slowly introduce safe weapon systems such as a stick or shinai. And then finally, you want to train against other weapon systems. If you guys want to learn more about the history of Capoeira, you can check it out on Wikipedia and many other sources that talk about the history. It's a beautiful history. A lot of masters, a lot of people worked very hard to legalize it and then get it popular. Alright, so did you learn anything new? Did I change your mind about Capoeira? How it works, how it functions? Do you see it in a new light? Well, if so, let me know below. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I am Benicio, and this is the Adroit Dojo Podcast.